There we go. We're live. What's up, Todd? Welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining.
Hey, what's going on, Nick? Thanks for having me on.
No problem, man. Hey, where are you from real quick?
I'm out here in California, about 45 minutes south of Sacramento.
Okay, nice. How do you like it out there? You been there for long?
Yeah, I've been here my whole life, but shoot, I think it's time to get out of California soon.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Isn't there like a giant California exodus right now?
Yeah.
A lot of people leaving the state.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people leaving.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I know a lot of people are like Joe Rogan went to Texas and everybody followed and copied that whole maneuver.
Yeah. House prices are getting pretty crazy too. So
yeah,
good time to sell.
Yeah, that is true. If you got a house in California you're trying to sell, it's your time, I think. But yeah, Todd, I wanted to bring you on. I checked out your stream, saw your content, and saw that you sent me a DM let me know on Instagram that you wanted to join. So I figured we could just chat a little bit and then maybe look at some markets together, see what's going on. And then right before we got on here, we were saying that you're kind of a scalper. Is that right?
Yeah. I mainly trade the 1 minute time frames, US 30, NASDAQ 100. So that's my preferred method. Used to trade a little bit of Forex, but my style of trading, just like getting the quicker trades in and out, not waiting a couple days. So that's basically my style of trading.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, the thing is, everybody sort of has their style that works for them. Some people like certain markets, some people like certain time frames. There's not like a right or wrong answer, but it's very cool just to talk to somebody who's actually really doing the low time frames, because a lot of people that I interact with, they are maybe even day traders to swing traders, but they're looking at the 1 hour, the 4 hour, that's pretty much where I focus. So it's cool to just get the perspective of somebody who is looking at the 1 minute chart. Let me ask you really quick, when you're trading US 30, do you try and time it with the New York session or the market open kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. Like for instance, when the New York Stock Exchange bell opens, I always usually just mark a line of where price was when the New York Stock Exchange opened for US 30.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's kind of interesting. I've been kind of back testing how many times after the bell, if price spikes up or down, how many times will price actually retest the open price? And surprisingly, the last 6 months, I found it's retesting anywhere from 70 to 75% of the time. So definitely am timing the New York Stock Exchange open.
So that's actually a really interesting point. So you're saying that there's this tendency right now for price to shoot off and come back to that point. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
And so do you try and trade that pullback? How do you look at that?
I basically try to use that level as a TP, basically.
Okay.
If I'm entering a buy, I'm like, that might be a good take profit zone to go for.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually, by the way, you guys, as you're tuning in here, Todd he's another Forex, well, not Forex, but trading YouTuber. And I watched him this morning just before I saw him going through his markets. And for you guys who have been begging for me to look at the lower time frames, 1 minute, 5 minute, etc., I think you guys should check out Todd's channel. He does all sorts of cool stuff with trading related, live trading. I literally watched you take that trade this morning. That was cool. So if you guys are ever looking for scalpers out there who trade indices, I think this is your guy. So you've got a nice little theme going. That's actually a really interesting concept, looking at the tendency for price to shoot off to a level and come right back to it. We were talking about that recently on my channel, just about how often you get some sort of big bullish or bearish engulfing candle, and just that tendency, even in Forex, seems to oftentimes come back and find some level of support or resistance at that same level. So very interesting that you talked about that.
Yeah, no doubt. Especially, I really like the lower time frames because it teaches you discipline. Like, there's going to be so many opportunities you see, but it's going to teach you discipline, just sticking with 1 minute, 5 minute. And I definitely don't overtrade. If I lose 3 or 4 trades per day, I'll be done. Always more opportunities the next day.
That's definitely a good rule. I think more people should take a look at that, because honestly, I think when people really get themselves in a lot of trouble, it seems like it's like it's like back to back. You know what I mean? Like it's like a slippery slope. Like they lose 2 or 3 trades, and then it's like quickly they're down to losing 7 or 8 trades, and it's like you maybe should have stopped.
Yeah, exactly. Turn the charts off, go play some Call of Duty or whatever.
Yes. My one of my guys that works at our company, he does like all of our analyst writing and stuff. He's long on like some cryptocurrencies right now, which is a painful spot to be in. And I called him this morning, Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything dropping like crazy. I called him this morning. I said, man, what do you think? And he's like, dude, I'm playing Skyrim all day.
Yeah.
He's just chilling on that. But probably a good tip, honestly. So Todd, if you want to, you can actually share your screen and we could check out anything you want to look at today. At the bottom of the streaming software here, there's a share button.
Okay.
And if you click that, you should be able to just share your screen, select whatever you want, and then that'll pop up for us.
Share screen.
And then Miles can just get you plugged in on the screen for us whenever you got it ready.
All right. Let's see.
There we go. Cool. Got it. Awesome. So you are using MetaTrader, which is I thought was cool. So yeah. Tell us about your setup. Tell us all your indicators and things that you're looking at. I'm curious.
Yeah. I actually only trade one strategy. I use a strategy called the Kangaroo Tails. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of that. They read the book Naked Forex.
Mm-hmm.
But what really appeals to me with the Kangaroo Tail is it gives you a stop loss fairly quickly.
Yeah.
I've tried other strategies in the past. Like, for instance, is it bearish Kangaroo Tail? Like, if someone would see this candle, you'd be like, okay, I'll place a stop loss above the tail, put in a sell, and vice versa.
Right.
And actually this morning, I missed a fairly good one because I'm big into crypto. My Bitcoin portfolio was taking a hit, so I actually missed a pretty good setup right here. This was a perfect Kangaroo Tail, and I just missed it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's
yeah. And this line here is actually the open price of NASDAQ when the bell rang, went up, and that's what I meant. It spiked right back down there.
I see. Very, very cool. So let me just ask you really quick. When you say Kangaroo Tail, is that like the same concept as like a bullish pin bar? Is that like just another word for it? Or I've heard that thing before, but is it different?
Yeah, basically pin bar, Kangaroo Tails, Morning Stars, hammers, or whatever like that. They are all very similar in nature, but the kangaroo specifically, we're looking for some specific criteria on it.
Gotcha.
So, for instance, pin bars may not have this criteria. Where a Kangaroo Tail, we need the open and close for a bullish Kangaroo Tail. This is a bullish Kangaroo Tail, by the way. We need the open and close to be within the upper 33% range, and the previous candle, the body and open must be within the previous candle range. So, for instance, if the body and open was down here and the close was there, you'd call that a pin bar, basically.
Right.
But with these rules, by the way, are based on Walter Peters' Naked Forex. That's the Kangaroo Tail. So just slight variations, but some of them can be considered pin bars. Absolutely.
Got it. Very, very cool. Yeah. So I like that. So would you say that most of what you trade is the indices? Do you also trade crypto like short term as well?
I'm more for crypto. I'm just holding long term.
Okay. Same.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So I saw you looking at you were looking at the US 30 this morning. Do you have any preference like US 30, NAS 100? Like, do you have a preference there, or do you just look at them all?
No, it just depends. Sometimes there'll be really, really good setups for US 30. Other times NASDAQ will just be choppy. So, or vice versa. Sometimes if US 30 is pretty choppy, I'll look at NASDAQ a little more.
Sure. So let's say that you, like today, for example, you get the open and price shoots one way. Is your bias pretty much just to fade the open each day? Is that like your main goal, is to look for, a fading opportunity? Is that like your focus, or is there any other confluence factors or things that you're looking for like direction for the day?
Yeah. Sometimes, like, you'll notice I got the force index up. I'll look at the force index to see if there's divergence with the Kangaroo Tail, and then I'll consider where the open price is, whether there will be a play, like if it spiked up, whether there'll be a play to go for a sell.
Gotcha.
Like hypothetically, okay, let's say if this candle up here was a Kangaroo Tail, I would just put in my sell and I would go for a TP right there at the open price.
Got it. Got it. Very cool. And so you have, I saw also with your style of trading, you lock in a stop. Do you use targets? Do you trail stops? What's your exit strategy looking like?
Actually, recently I've been using the Fibonacci tool.
I saw that, and I've actually done the same thing. So I
what
thought
I
that was
did is I
really cool.
basically have converted the Fibonacci tool into a risk reward.
I love that.
So, like if anybody wanted to do a risk reward, convert it to, these are the levels I do for the Fibonacci. I did a video on this a couple days ago on that, so if anyone was interested in that, you can check that out. But I'm basically trying to go for 5 Rs, 6 Rs at least. If I see a trade go up 1 hour, I usually set break even right away.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I'll just review this trade I could have taken, but I
Sure.
didn't notice it because Bitcoin, China banning Bitcoin, and all that. I was distracted. But here, this would have been my setup. I would have bought instantly, no hesitation. Would have had a very, very tight stop loss. And we can see this trade ran as high as 10 Rs in under like 15 minutes. So
that is crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just depends how tight my stop is. Focusing on how many Rs I can get rather than the next zone.
Right. So let's say that you take that trade. At what point do you trail further? Do you use, because I actually use a pretty similar, it's interesting watching your concept here, because you're talking about like a 1 minute chart, and that's something similar to how like I might trade on a higher time frame. Is like, let's say I take a position on the euro against the dollar, and I'm short, and it starts moving up to 1 hour. Like you said, I would move my stop to break even, and then how I do it personally is like I use sort of a combination of distance. Like if it goes to 2R, I might look to trail to 1R if structure sort of agrees. If that makes sense. Like I use structure in my trading, so I'm looking for, and it seems like you do too. I'm looking for like some next level to get broken, and then I move my stop. Next level to get broken, move my stop. How do you do? And mine is on like the 4 hour and the daily, so it's probably different than yours. But how would you trail a stop should this thing start going in your direction?
Let's say if this went up 5 Rs, I might secure at least 1 hour.
Yeah.
I recently just started focusing on the risk rewards 3 weeks ago. Before I would have a lot wider stops in. I wasn't quite happy just getting 1 hour, 2 Rs, even though the win rate may be slightly higher. It's like my risk reward appetite just wasn't being fed.
Right.
So, I mean, that's actually a good question because I haven't thought about that. Like if I hit 6 Rs, I'm usually risking $50 per trade. I'd be happy with $300. So I'd say I kind of have a weakness in, looking beyond that, how to get the maximize. I'm still working on that, how to basically maximize the move before closing too soon, and then potentially, kicking yourself like, oh, wow, you should have just waited for the next zone to be broken, or, things like that.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting concept because it's tricky. Like the way that I would do like this sort of setup, even though it's a super short term chart, and I like probably would shy away personally. That level where you've got the red arrow there on the left, that structure point there where you've got that swing high, where you're talking about that reversal. At that point, if price were able to like close above that, break above that, for me, I would use that as an opportunity to really like lock in my stop, because I'm saying, okay, if price really like breaks under there, it's just like no longer of interest because it could full blown reverse. For me, the way I'm looking at that is I'm saying, okay, I'm in that trade. If it's going this well, I'm going to go ahead and take this as an opportunity to lock it in, and then just trail further and kind of repeat that process. But I always like to ask, because everybody sort of has their way of doing it. And like you also, sometimes it's like very tempting. Like a certain number will come into mind. I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll take $400, $500 and just close out of the trade. But there's all different, like I always like to say on my channel that I think that the entry is important, but the exit, in my opinion, is more important. Because playing it right is key to it's like the ultimate number that actually impacts your bottom line. You know what I mean? Like the exit does. So but
I've been, for example, I've been up, $200, $250 in a trade, and I'm like, my goal's like $400, $500, and I think greed kind of kicks into me, and sometimes I'll just let it hit. I'll secure 1 hour, and I'm only bagging like $60, $70 instead of 200, and then I'm like, oh damn, could I have done something better? But it's always hindsight after the trade.
It is, and it's a dangerous game too, because there's like no matter what you do, you're never going to play it perfectly, and it's easy to get frustrated. And I definitely think a lot of the audience can probably relate to that. Just you have times where you get stopped out of a trade just to watch it run higher. Like I think that's happening to me right now on one of my trades. I stopped out for a profit on like a pound currency cross this week, and it was like as soon as it tagged my stop loss, of course it kept going. Even though I made money, it's still just like, man, I wish I could have made the full move there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one that you're looking at, this is it NAS 100? It's a little bit tough.
Yeah.
To see from where I'm looking at.
NASDAQ 100.
So when you're looking at this, are you just trading the open, or are you looking throughout the day? How often or how long do you usually spend, trading per day?
Per day, keep it pretty short. I'm only trading for 2 or 3 hours because
Okay.
I feel like the most volatility is in the open price, and then through the day, I just don't want to like burn myself out too much. So I like to keep the trading a lot shorter. And I'm like,
Right.
no sense to push it. Always tomorrow.
That's very true. It's very true. Yeah, I think like for me, because I'm a bit more of like a swing trader, usually trading for me takes like an hour a day. And I think it is really, there is like that awesome feature of being like shorter term scalper / day trader, of being like, okay, well, I can get in, I can get out, and then I'm done for the day. I don't have to think about it. Because that's always like the lure of like, as a swing trader, my positions are pretty much always on. Like there's usually a trade that I'm in at any given time, which keeps me somewhat tied to monitoring it. So there's always that trade-off.
Yeah.
So what is this chart that you're looking at here?
This is actually US 30. So here I'm noticing some bullish divergence here. So this would be a good time where I would be wanting to see a bullish kangaroo tailor print. If I see one print, I might take one. Obviously, since it's in a downtrend, I probably won't go for TP at the open price because shoot, I'm asking the market to move 2,200 pips at that moment.
Right, that's
so,
a pretty
I'd be happy with a smaller trade.
Well, don't let me stop you if you want to take it. It's your trading time.
Yeah. I just use the indicator whenever a kangaroo tail pops up. I just get the alert, so I'm not always having to look at the chart.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I think it's not too often that we get someone who comes on and brings that perspective of like the super low time frame. So I think it is cool just to hear from somebody who actually does it,
Yeah, and a trick I do for US 30, a lot of people are just focusing on US 30. But a good thing to do is like look at the actual stocks on US 30. Like, Apple might give you an entry on US 30 that you may not be able to see just trading US 30 alone, or
that's a good
maybe
point.
looking at Boeing. Sometimes Boeing will just move US 30 by itself while the other stocks are just being choppy.
Right. I wonder, that actually is an interesting concept. You almost could even take the idea of like, if you have a bullish thesis on US 30, maybe you take the lagging ones of the stocks and even try and like trade them back into, to catch up to the rest of them. There's all sorts of concepts like that crossing over between the indices and stocks individually.
Yeah. I think that's what appeals to me about the indices so much is you got so much influence over not just one thing, but like NASDAQ, hey, there's 105 stocks on NASDAQ 100,
right?
30 stocks in US 30. And, it's like basically taking a microscope and looking at, okay, what's actually causing this to move.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It looks like you spotted a little bit of divergence there already, looking pretty nicely. So that's going well. So are you using that force indicator there at the bottom? Can you explain that to the people, myself included, that don't know exactly what that is?
Basically just measuring volume and momentum. I actually added to my charts because I read a book called Come Into My Trading Room. Mm-hmm. And the author of that book, I think this book was written about 20 years ago. The author of that book, he said he used kangaroo tails with the force index in combination. And he was showing a lot of good examples in his book. And I was just like, okay, since, this millionaire trader, he's not flashing the Lambos or anything. He's actually a pretty good trader. I'm like, why not add it to the arsenal and check it out? So I've been using the force index for just about a month now, just to help spot those divergences.
Nice. Yeah. And I saw you when you do your stream, you stream on YouTube and also Twitch. And that you mentioned that Twitch is actually a bigger audience for you. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, a lot. I guess that's just because Twitch has a little bit more features. You can be more interactive, do things with the chat, and do giveaways. I'm not sure if YouTube can do that yet, but my audience definitely prefers Twitch.
Do you stream on Streamlabs?
I use OBS.
OBS. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah. I was just curious because I thought it was cool that you had your comments from both rolling in. We have that.
Twitch trading is actually a smaller niche, so it's actually a good platform to hop on. There's only probably about 3,000 viewers on the stocks, but a lot of opportunity in there.
Very, very cool. Well, awesome, man. So I also wanted to ask, like your spreads here look really tight. Is it just your? I mean, I guess your broker. You use Ingot, is that right?
Yeah, Ingot Brokers.
Yeah. How has that been? Has that been a good broker pick for
it's been pretty good. I actually started with them because they had lower contract sizes.
Yeah.
They have a contract size of 1, so if you trade on 1 micro lot, 1 pip would be worth 0.001 cent. If you trade on 1 mini lot, then you got 1 cent per pip po. So smaller contract size. I know a lot of brokers have various contract size, but the smaller one, it lets a person that may only have like $400 or $500, they can come in, trade the indices with very low risk, dip their feet in the water without having to trade demo, and maybe only risk a couple dollars until they're comfortable actually doing the standard pips of 10 cents per pip.
Right. Very, very true. And that's actually a great point, because the thing that I notice about like indices is that like you said, the contract size on a lot of brokers, like 0.01 lots doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're trading US 30, 0.01 lots is a massive movement, like to a small account. Like if you're sitting there with $200, $300 in an account, I think on Hugo's way, you have to have $150 in an account just to take 0.01 lots on US 30. So that's like the minimum margin requirements. So yeah, it's an interesting concept. A mini account like that sounds really, really cool for people who have lower amounts of money who want to trade things like gold, the Dow, the NASDAQ, whatever you want to trade. That's actually a really interesting point.
Yeah. And typically, if a broker offers 1 contract size, you only need $3 of margin to place a trade on 1 micro lot.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, hypothetically, somebody that wants to dip their feet in, they can come in with a $10 account, risk 10 cents for 100 pips, and, just gain experience.
That's so cool, because then it gets that best of both worlds where you're not risking a whole lot of real money. So you're not like going to hurt yourself if you mess up learning. And on the same time, it's real money. So you actually feel something about the trades that you're making. That's actually a really good concept. I've heard of micro accounts, but I've never like come across a broker that offers them. So that's really cool.
Yeah. It's better to risk 10 cents on 100 pips than trade demo, because at least you got that emotional factor, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Actually, very, very cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that, because I think it might be a good one just to recommend to people. I know that's a big one that you talk about on your channel. I saw it on there and I thought that was cool, just because it's one of those things, like a lot of people that we have watching us inevitably come from places in the world where $20 US is a lot, that's a lot of money to them in their country. And so if they could trade $20 as like their entire account and keeping it relatively like steady and small, could be a really good advantage for people in tougher spots in the world, for sure.
Yeah. I get a lot of questions from people saying, "Oh, I wish I could trade US 30, but I only have $100." I'm like, well, you can just trade on a broker with smaller contract sizes, and you're gonna be able to join the party.
Right. That's a very good point. I'm glad that we talked about that, because I think people in the audience could use hearing that, and I'm sure that just having that as an option to think about would be really cool. Ish asks, do you have any thoughts on gold? Do you have any? Do you ever look at gold? Is that something you even look at, or no?
I actually stopped trading gold over a year ago. Gold actually just was not working out for the kangaroo tail strategy specifically. So gold is actually one of the only things that kangaroos were not working for me on the lower time frames. It'd mainly be like hourly time frame, 4 hours, that would work better for gold.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so kangaroo tails, that concept is like pretty much, it's a reversal based idea. So do you find that it like works much better on certain things, where it works okay on certain things? Are there certain like assets or markets where you find that to be more effective, like looking for those short-term reversals?
Yeah. For anyone probably wondering, would kangaroo tails work for Forex on 1 minute and 5 minute? I'd say no. I'd say 15 minutes and beyond, because on the Forex, the spread might be a little higher on some of the pairs, so you're not going to get a very good risk reward. So yeah, definitely depends on time frame and what you're trading.
Right. Well, and that's honestly, that's a good answer, because sometimes people ask me like, Nick, what do you think about XYZ? And it's like, if I don't have an opinion, I don't have an opinion. And if I gave you one, I would just be making it up. So there are certain things where like you trade it or you don't. I watch gold. I don't trade it very often, but because it has something to do with the US dollar, it's something that I do like weigh in opinions on, just because as a Forex trader, what the US dollar is doing is very impactful to a whole list of different markets. But yeah, that's a great answer, by the way, Ish. Even though he didn't give you like a straight up thought on gold, the idea of skipping out on weighing in on things that you don't trade is a great example of like what you should probably strive to do as a trader. Like, you shouldn't try and have an opinion on everything. You should really just be sticking to what you do best and doing it again and again and again. You mentioned that you do one strategy, so you really stick to one thing, and you've just been doing it over and over. Do you ever see yourself expanding to other strategies, or do you really just think you're set in doing what you do best?
Yeah, definitely. I always had the idea, once I become like a true expert, proven to be profitable month in, after I become a master of kangaroo tails, basically, I would then consider other entries.
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I really stick to one or two strategies that I really have been doing for a long time, and it's one of those things like, there's never truly a point where you're like, oh, I know everything now. It's always more to learn, more to pick up on and to figure out and to refine your skills, especially when, like, I don't know if you noticed this in your trading, but like 2020 was, it really shook things up. Like, things changed in volatility. They changed in market behavior. A lot of different markets started moving differently, at least in what I do, right? The swing trading side of things. Did you, or were you even like looking at this sort of concept during 2020? And if so, like, did it change things at all for you?
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. That's when I started like fully trading, was
Right.
back in January 2020. I
Okay.
only started with a $100 account, and I didn't really find any change with the volatility. I was just, because I was trading on the smaller time frame, so I was like, okay, the longer term moves weren't really hurting me, so it didn't really affect how I was trading, basically.
Sure. Okay. Well, cool. Yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. I think like it's just a good exposure to checking out what you do. And like I said, I checked out your channel, and that's why I was just like, hey, we should get this guy on. He seems like a cool guy and definitely has some cool insight. Guys, I want to tell you right now, like, if you're not watching his streams, they're very entertaining. I had it up for like 20-30 minutes this morning, just watching what he does. If you guys want to keep up to date with Todd, check out his channel. Todd, what is your channel titled?
That's just Earn with Todd.
Earn with Todd, guys. Check him out on YouTube. He's also on Instagram. What we're going to do, Todd, is probably cut this up into some social media pieces. We'll tag you on there and tell people to go check you out, because I think they will not be disappointed. So thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny. Someone messaged me last night. They're like, hey, Trader Nick is looking for some guests. I'm like, okay, let's see if you want to check out my channel. And it's funny how things work. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no problem, man. And one more thing I will say is, like, I think it's really cool that on your streams, when you're scalping, you're taking short-term trades, you're actually jumping in and taking trades on the camera. And that honestly takes, guts to do. People, it's a lot of putting yourself out there when you take trades in front of people, because you already know, like, you get people who criticize you, or they make funny, like, oh, you should have done this. Hindsight is everywhere, and it's a little bit frustrating. So guys, definitely respect to Todd and check him out on YouTube. You won't be disappointed, like I said. So Todd, thank you so much for joining us, man, and maybe we'll see you next time.
Yeah, for sure, Nick. This is great.
All right, man. See you next time. All right, guys. With that said, thank you so much for being on today's stream. We had some great shows, had a great guest on, and did all sorts of stuff. So we'll just go ahead and jump off the camera here. We'll call it a day. Thanks so much again for being a part of it. Make sure to subscribe down below if you want more content like this. We're going to be having more guests and people joining us, and maybe we'll even see Todd back in the future. So thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back next time.